Yes, lads, what is going on? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 29 or 30. I'm not too sure of the Little Running Irishman podcast. Few things, or one thing actually before we get into this episode of the podcast is we have hit 150 subscribers. In fact, we've hit 154 subscribers, and I feel like when this episode goes out, it will increase that by a few as well. Hopefully get to 160 subscribers over on YouTube, because this is a really great episode, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy it that tunes in. Yeah, so with Cheryl Nolan is a really great episode. First of all, it's the first female guest on the podcast, which is really cool. Second of all, Cheryl has been around the block when it comes to running. She's been, national champion over here many times. She's been over in America running on a scholarship in college over in America. She's come back now. She's been through injuries. She's been through a lot in the running world, you could say, and she's making her comeback over in Ireland. So find out everything Cheryl has to talk about in this episode of the podcast. It was a really easy episode to talk about and talk with Cheryl, because she's just really great. It was a really great episode, and it just flowed really nicely. You guys are going to enjoy it a lot. I hope you guys do enjoy. If you do, hit the like button. Also subscribe. We hit 150 subscribers. I said if we hit 150 subscribers quickly, the next goal will be 200 subscribers by the end of the year. So I know you guys can do it. Just smash that like button and that subscribe button if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and share around with your friends to try and hit that elusive goal of 200 subscribers by the end of the year. I'd really appreciate it. Guys, I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak peek to a little giveaway that we're doing next week. If you follow me over on the Little Running Irishman official Instagram, you will have seen about these bracelets. They're from Running Bracelets over on Instagram, Artican Running Bracelets. They're really cool. I'm not going to talk more about them now. Next week's episode of the podcast, I will be talking about them more. Nothing really much else to talk about. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye. Right, everybody, so I'm here with Cheryl Nolan, Irish athlete, and Cheryl, thanks for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thanks, Killian. I'm delighted to be your first female guest.
I was about to get there. It's I don't know if it's something that we really need to dwell on enough, but it's something we can notice. Say, you're the first female guest. I'd say that won't be going on your resume anytime soon, but sure, look.
Well, you never know. It'll be a good way to start things.
It could be. But anyway, Cheryl, do you want to just give a quick background and a quick introduction about yourself, and then we can get things going?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if I'm as well known as some of your previous guests on here, but
yeah.
I basically started running when I was in 3rd or 4th class in school, and it's a funny story really, because there's a couple of schools in our area that always compete against each other.
Yeah.
And every year I would, try out for the relay team, because the winning school won a big cup. It was called the Social Services Cup. So every year I'd try out for the relay, and I was getting 5th every year. So I never made it, never got to go. And this one particular year, my best friend at the time, she was really good at running.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to make the team this year, so you need to train for it. And she ran in our local club, St. Albans. So she said, come on up and train. So I did. I joined ultimately to just make a relay team for primary school, and made the team that year. And because we were such good friends, and it was such a great social scene, basically, I kept going, kept attending, and ended up starting to have, I suppose, individual success then. As years went on, and as my training, I suppose, increased and everything, ended up doing quite well as a juvenile, won a few national titles, made the Celtics, made a few international teams, and then ultimately ended up getting a scholarship to America, and I vanished over there for a while, and now I'm back.
No, that's actually quite interesting, and taking it back a bit. Like I've never heard a story like on how to start running. But you said that your friend was initially better than you at running, and then you were the one that ended up getting the scholarship and gone over to America. But do you feel like as soon as you started training, and maybe when your training started to intensify a little bit, that's when you start really getting better at running, or did it take a pretty long time to actually start seeing improvements?
I think, well, she was very good for quite a long time. She doesn't
Yeah,
run anymore, but it took me quite a long time to get ahead of her in races. I think I seen a lot of improvements very quickly at the beginning, but that was simply because I had done no training at all.
yeah,
Now, granted, I was running cross country races and finishing in the 50s, 60s. I absolutely hated it, and wasn't very good at it. I just seen it as torture. But I did it because I loved racing track, and that was just where my strengths were. So I think, I just really enjoyed it. So it didn't matter so much that I wasn't doing well at the beginning,
yeah,
but I could always see that I was starting to move up in the fields. My first year cross country, I don't even know where I finished, but the next year I would have been maybe 20 places higher.
yeah.
And I think that really gave me the confidence to stick with it and to keep going. At no point did, I remember the year that I first medaled, in the All Irelands, and at no point did I really expect that to happen.
Yeah,
It was a surprise, and it was a shock, but it was a good one.
yeah,
And I think then you get addicted to that feeling, really, don't you? You
yeah,
probably know
100%.
yourself. You
Yeah,
you get addicted to just improving, whether it's positions, whether it's your PBs, and I suppose that the people that are around you as well. You're in quite a big club. I'm in a club that's a decent size as well, and it's fun to go there and
definitely, yeah.
see everyone and meet up with them. So I think there's a bigger element to it as well than just competing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you said a good point there when you first start racing cross country, you found it as torture, and I don't think some people that actually don't do running and do like just say football or whatever, they don't understand how painful it actually is.
Right.
And
I still actually think it's torture, to be honest.
oh, 100%. And like before a race, yeah, you're nervous that like, oh, you want to do well, but you're
Yeah.
also, you know how painful it's going to be, and you're just dreading it so much basically. And no, and you mentioned that year where you got your first All Ireland medal, and you said that feeling was obviously amazing. I feel personally, even just finishing a race, it feels like a big weight lifted off your shoulder, especially because of the nerves you can feel before a race. But you said you didn't really expect that to happen. Like, talk a bit more about that. So, like, the year before, were you not even near the top? Not even, winning medaling at Dublin's or win your county in All Ireland. So, are you telling me that was completely out of the blue and a big shock for you?
Um, I suppose our club was very competitive. As in my age group when I was growing up, we had a huge group of girls, which is quite rare. And I'm from Laois, so it's a country club.
Yeah,
So quite phenomenal the number of girls we had. And I think they were the ones who made me better, but I would always compare myself to them, and
yeah,
they were always together in training. So I think I was sheltered in a way. My coaches never made me believe, not that they didn't make me believe, I suppose, never built me up. So
yeah,
I'd go to races, I'd be really excited. And then some days, yourself, everything just clicked. But I think that, the first time you do really well, you win a medal at the All Irelands, regardless of whether you've won your county and won Leinster's on the way up. I think winning your first All Ireland medal is always going to be quite memorable. And I
yeah,
think in a way, you'll always have doubts. You might believe that you can run fast enough, but you never know if it'll work out on the day. And when I was growing up, Ferrybank Athletic Club were that green singlet, I'll just never forget it.
yeah.
They were just always so phenomenal. And there could be so many of those girls in your race that it's quite difficult. It was quite difficult to beat any of them.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I mean by it was a bit of a shock. I suppose when you have rivals, the first time you manage to beat a rival, you're always shocked in a way.
Definitely, yeah.
But it's great then because you ultimately believe that you can do it again, I suppose.
Yeah, no. Personally, I've a few Dublin medals to my name at the moment, but not yet an All Ireland medal. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, even a team one soon enough. Whenever we can get back racing. And do you feel once you were saying there that maybe you're in the shadows a little bit in your team. Once you actually won this All Ireland medal, your career from that young of an age kind of started to skyrocket a little bit. You started getting a little bit more attention around the club, and from year on, then you were kind of one of the big names at every races.
Yeah, and I think when you win your first medal, you gain the confidence in yourself, and I suppose that's hugely important. It's hugely important to believe in yourself and your ability and what you can do. And I started looking forward and thinking, I want to win a gold medal. And it was still important. The girls around me, when it came to cross country season, they would smash me, but I knew if I could just try and hang on to them as much as possible, that it would benefit me in track, because that's where I kind of came into my own a little bit.
Yeah.
But it did, our club was good. I mean, everyone got the same amount of attention. Everyone got a lot of effort put into them. And I maybe started training a little bit harder, which ended up pushing me on to, I suppose, winning my first national title as a juvenile, which was very memorable, as you can imagine.
How did that race kind of pan out? Because even though, yeah, it might have been a few years ago now, but it's still, I'd say, one of a great moment in your career that maybe you think about.
Yeah. I went to, it was in Tullamore, so all of our All Ireland races were in Tullamore, and I'd entered the 800 and 1500 meters. And Sarah Tracy, you probably know of her, everyone does. We competed against each other, so she was a big name, a big rival in one of my races. And then of course in the 800 we had just a lot of the Ferrybank girls, and I actually won both that year. I did the double. I can't remember, I'm trying to remember which one came first. I do remember the 1500 more, I think, because Sarah was in it, and I remember thinking there's no way I can beat her, but if I can come second, that'll be great. So ultimately I was hanging on to her for dear life, because she always set a really strong pace, as she's been doing ever since, I suppose. And with 300 meters to go, I was just thinking, you've got something left, so let's try catch her. So I started to reel her in and kind of was kicking, and caught her coming up the home straight. And that's a very, very memorable race for me. It's funny because I do remember the 800, but not as vividly. I think it was such a big moment. Sarah, I'd been racing Sarah for a number of years. So to finally come out on top was pretty special.
No, definitely. And the track, personally, I don't know, I think I prefer cross country more, but I can definitely say that. Yeah, I feel like the pain is a lot worse, but I feel like I'm a bit better at the cross country.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Is it longer? Longer than your track races?
Yeah, well, this year I've actually competed in my first 5K on the track, which I actually really liked. So maybe once I start getting into the longer stuff on the track, maybe then I'll start to enjoy that more. I definitely. My worst event, not worst event, but the one I hate the most is the 800. I think it's just so painful.
But it's fun. I think it's difficult if you prefer longer distances. When you're younger, you don't have anything long. So you might find yourself liking track an awful lot more when you can race, 5 to 10, 5Ks, and I mean, eventually, if you wanted it, 10K.
Yeah, no, definitely. And no, but I have actually a 3K time trial just with my team on Thursday, so
Oh,
hopefully that goes well. No, it's just because obviously the races so far have
yeah,
been
yeah.
cancelled, so and
Well,
the
first crossed.
yeah, hopefully it's just as well because the park we're training, because it gets dark while the time
Mm,
we're training, we can't really be doing much on the grass. So yeah, no, we'll see how it goes anyway.
yeah.
But now kind of coming into the later stages of your career when we move into the time you get over to America. How did obviously we'll talk about how the experience was while you were there, but leading up to it, how did it kind of come about?
It was something from a very young age. I said I want to go there. Probably from first year, I knew that was my plan. I was going to try no matter what to
Yeah.
get over there, and even I always said if I really don't like it, I'll just come back. But I think I wanted the experience. So I suppose I was running quite well in secondary school, and when I was in fourth year, different coaches I suppose were getting in touch, and I was talking to different people. Same again in fifth and sixth year, and I'd kind of narrowed it down to three different universities. I suppose I chose one a little bit off the beating track. The one that I was leaning towards, the coach actually left
Yeah.
when I was getting ready to sign, and they hadn't got a new coach, so I just completely opted out then of that option. I
Yeah,
didn't want to
definitely.
go somewhere where I didn't know who the coach would be. So the school I went to actually had a few Irish girls there previously. Aoife Cook was there, who won the Dublin Marathon last
Yeah.
year. And Fiona Keogh was there. She's really good 800-meter runner. So there was an Irish tradition in a sense.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I think when you go to America, you've got these big ideas about what it's going to be like, and you can be a little bit naive. And
Yeah.
I think it's a lot different now with social media and everything. And you probably people know a lot more about the schools that they're eventually going to. But I to be honest, didn't know a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I hopped on a plane and found myself in Arkansas, which is deep south, just right above Texas.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. I stayed there for 4 years. I moved to a different school then for another 2 years. I was injured, I suppose, in the first 4 years, so kept some eligibility, and so really competed with two different schools. But it was very different than what I expected it to be. But at the same time, I think it was a very, very good experience and a valuable experience, I suppose, personally and athletically.
Yeah, and you said there about like everything with social media, people can know what different schools are like nowadays, so it might be a bit easier to make decisions. But personally, from looking at social media, the training over there seems pretty high and pretty intense, and obviously at some spots where it's higher altitude as well. So maybe you could say they have a bit of an advantage that way. But personally, when you were over there, did you see a drastic increase in intensity or volume, or did you need to do much adaptation when it came to training?
Yeah, a huge amount. I was a very low mileage person. I was 800 and 1500 meters. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I did cross country, but I didn't do huge amount of mileage. So when I went over, my mileage increased significantly. The intensity of what I was doing increased significantly. I suppose I viewed myself as being indestructible. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think I'd ever get injured, but I did. And that was down to a combination of all of those things. My first year, I found it very, very tough emotionally, I would say. I left here, and was, I suppose, the best in my group at my club. I was doing quite well, and I went over, and there were quite a few girls that were better than me, and everything felt like a race in a way.
Yeah.
All the sessions we were doing, you'd go for easy runs, and sometimes they weren't that easy. And we were training twice a day. You know, your alarm goes off at
Yeah.
5:30 a couple of days
Jesus.
during the week. It was very, very different
Yeah.
to what I was used to. And I think I struggled a lot, and I think I was probably very, very fit, but we were training so hard that I was going to races, and I was doing poorly in races because all of the hard work was being left at home, essentially. And you know, I think it really is a learning curve, and I think I could have left after that first year. There were definitely times when I thought, this just isn't for me, this isn't going to work, but I stuck with it. And it did take me a while to start running well. It did take me a while to run PBs and to actually feel comfortable. And I think you need to stand your ground a little bit too. When runs are too hard, you need to just pull back and not be afraid of saying to yourself, this is too quick. You're just going to be tired if you run at this pace. So, but that I think you need to be mature to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I was probably quite naive, and I wanted to do everything the coach said, and I wanted to be the best on the team and be a leader. But you have to think, I suppose, of how it's going to affect you. And if you're running too hard and you're constantly tired, your body's going to break down. So it was tough, but I figured it out eventually. Not in the first year or two, but after that, things started to get a little bit better for me.
You said there that when you increase your mileage drastically and the intensity, you felt like, you know, you were unbeatable, but then you ended up getting injured. So was it a big injury? Was it only a little minor setback? What kind of injury was it?
I actually, so it was towards, had a few little niggles all the way through, but nothing serious until my third year into my fourth year. I did have quite a serious injury. They thought that I had compartment syndrome in my calf. So essentially, if you can't solve that, it means surgery. And I would be running, and my calf and my foot would start to go numb, and I'd start getting pins and needles in my foot.
Yeah.
And then I eventually just couldn't feel from my knee down on one of my legs.
Yeah.
So it is quite serious. If you take a break and if it doesn't go away, it does require surgery. So at that point, I was very, very concerned. I had to take a good chunk of time off, and just do nothing. And luckily enough, it went away. Yeah. So I didn't need to get surgery. And it was at that point that I finished up, I suppose, in that first university and went to a different one and finished out my final year of eligibility there. But was very much so, you know, after you take a couple of months off, you're very much so starting from the bottom again.
Definitely,
you know.
Yeah.
You probably know after a break it's hard to get back into it, but
yeah, definitely.
Sometimes these things are worthwhile, I suppose.
And did you, when you were injured, did you feel under pressure because you were on a scholarship? Did you feel under pressure? You know, maybe if you were back home just training with your club, you could have taken more time off and recovered maybe a bit better. And just because you were over in America, did you feel more pressure to get back as soon as possible?
Yeah, definitely. And my coach was very keen on me trying to come back and make the conference championships a big team event. Yeah. And he was very keen for me to try and be back to run for the team, but it didn't happen. You know, and I think I would have been more concerned if it was in the earlier stages of my career there, but because it was more towards the end and I was planning on moving on, I tried to focus on just getting better. Of course, it would have been easier if I were at home and definitely. There's not the pressures of scholarships. You know, it's difficult because you want to do the best you can. You want to help your team, but ultimately, if there's something going on, if there's something amiss, there's no point in competing. And I ended up saving a year, and was very much so in two minds about just coming back home after the 4 years, but was very lucky to be offered a scholarship at a different university, even though I hadn't raced in a while. And I think that move probably kept me in the sport. So hindsight's a great thing, and I suppose you can appreciate these things when you look back on them as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, no, over there as well, like I was saying, looking at social media and Instagram, it does look very intense, and I say a lot different than over here. But kind of moving on to the more, positive things when you were over in America. So you did say that it took you a while to adjust to the intensity and the volume of the training, but once you did, could you see fast improvements? Like, was there any major wins or any major PBs while you were over there?
Yeah, I actually, well, cross country is a lot different over there than it is here. It's golf courses, but I did. I was very, very strong. I could go to a meet and I could run 2 races in a day and run really well in both of them. There might have only been an hour recovery in between, and that's when you can really, I suppose, start to see how fit you are when you can just recover very fast. I started to run PBs in the 800 and 1500. I started to run quite well over 5k, which was very much so new territory for me. I started finishing high up in conference championships, which would have been 5k, 6k, and I suppose trying to move that on and do well at regionals as well. So I think it was a big step for me in terms of moving up in distance. I never would have considered myself to be capable of running good 5Ks. And it opened my mind to the fact that if you put in the work, if you put in the mileage, and also if you're smart about it, then you can compete well over longer stuff. And I moved up to 5k for quite a few years, and I ran very, very well and ran good times. So that would be a huge positive. I would look back on my time in America and say it proved to me that if you put in the work, then you will get the results.
No, yeah, 100%. And obviously, I feel like the races they've been a little bit more intimidating over there just due to the vast number of athletes.
Yeah. I like when you go to regional cross country meets, and you're on the starting line. Now we have big races at home, but nothing like this. You go to the start line and you have your pen, and the thing is, everybody around you is very, very good. So it can be a little bit scary and can be a little bit daunting, but I suppose you have to know your worth. And it's so easy to get carried away. I think at the beginning of cross country races, it's just so fast. So it can be quite difficult to get pacing right. And if you go out too slow, you could be like in 100th position.
Definitely.
It's a bit wild, and it does take time to get used to. But I think all of these things they're good for you. Like, it's good to be exposed to big fields like that and fields that are really, really competitive. So, at the time I was really scared.
Yeah, you would be.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking, that was great. That was fun. I'd like to do that again,
Yeah, no, definitely. And once again, like, looking at the videos of the cross country races and all on YouTube and Instagram, it's literally like hundreds and hundreds of people on the line, and then when the gun goes off, they all come, and it kind of turns into a triangle, and then the faster athletes are up the front then, and then, like, I'd say, like, I remember in Navan race course for an All Ireland there last year, the year before, like, just with the few hundred people that are in our races in Ireland, like, you're nearly walking around corners. So, like, was it like that at any stage in over in America?
I don't think so. We almost walk around corners here at times because it's so mucky. It's
Yeah,
really sloppy and slippy, and there's really tight bends. In America, a lot of the courses for cross country are golf courses, so they're flat and they're
yeah,
smooth, and they're ultimately made for fast running.
yeah,
For a long time, my 5K PB was from a cross country race,
yeah, yeah.
because it's just beautiful running. It's really, really nice. So I think I never really experienced what I experienced at home. Like cross country at home is just a whole different,
Yeah,
it's
oh,
a whole
100%.
different ball game. Yeah.
Do you feel like that maybe the fact that you've had the experience back here at home in Ireland with the muddy, the dirty courses, it gave you maybe that extra bit of strength when you start running cross country over in America?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I think you go over and you're like, well, this isn't really cross country.
No, it's not. It's just kind of running on grass.
You don't know what cross country
Yeah,
even is.
no, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, but no, kind of coming into the end of your experience over in America, were you, I know some people keep running over there and sign professional contracts with maybe a shoe brand. Were you 100% set on coming home and start training again over here, or were you in two minds?
Um, well, I finished up, so I was doing my master's degree, so I had 1 year of eligibility left, and I finished that year, and the school was very, very good to me, and they kept me on as what's called a graduate assistant, so I
Yeah,
was listed as an assistant coach, but essentially that meant I kept training with the team, I kept training with the coach that I had at the time, and all of the races that they went to, I went to and competed as an unattached athlete.
yeah,
And when I finished that up, I actually worked in America for a couple of years then as well. And it's very different, when you're over there and you're just an athlete and you're not in a university, because a lot
yeah,
of people, when you finish university, you either go professional or you quit. But I was working at a university, so there were always people around, there were always bodies I supposed to train with. So because I had ran PBs and I was improving, I just kept going,
yeah,
and eventually I think it got difficult because I was training, doing a lot of the bulk of work by myself and on my
yeah.
own. And ultimately the move back home, when I made it, was quite an easy one to make. And it has made such a difference being back. And I joined a group up in Dublin, and it's amazing to train with people, and for your sessions, we all have bad days, we all have days when we're not feeling great, and it's so helpful to have people just pull you along
Definitely,
on
yeah,
those days. And you look back and you think, wow, how did I train so much by myself?
yeah,
You feel spoiled, but I think it's good. It's good for us to train by ourselves too.
yeah,
It makes us strong and tough. But I think in Ireland we're very, very lucky because there's so many clubs and there are so many races. Well, not now, but
no,
when
normally,
normal, yeah,
yeah,
hopefully soon. And there's just such a good community, even if you're not in the same club as someone. You can meet up with them, you can run with them.
yeah.
It's not really that, it is competitive when you're on the start line, but apart from that, there's always people around. So I think we're very, very lucky in that sense, because in America, it's just a very different system.
No, it is 100%. So, yeah, obviously, from personal experience over quarantine, when I wasn't able to go training with my team, every single day doing sessions and all on my own and runs on my own, it got pretty repetitive, and it is always nice to have the team around you. So, would you say that played a big part in your decision to come back?
Yeah, I think so. And I think America had ran its course for me. I was there for just over 7 years, and I didn't really, I suppose athletically and professionally, I just didn't see a future there for me.
Yeah,
a lot of people, you know, will say home is home, and it's there's nowhere else like it.
Yeah.
You know, so even though I was gone for so long, it just never felt the same to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been nice being back.
Well, so one thing, you've been there for over 7 years, and you never lost your accent, so that's a good
I
thing.
didn't. Well, that's what the Americans love, you know. It would have been
Yeah.
silly to get rid of it.
No, 100%. But they're all Irish over there.
That's it, yeah.
Was it before you left for America, or when you came back to Ireland when you got your first? I presume before you left you had an Irish singlet. But just talk about, when did you get your first Irish singlet, and what was that experience like?
Well, my first Irish singlet came when I was a juvenile,
Yeah.
and I suppose that the year that I won the 800 and 1500, I made the Celtic team, and to my disgust, we were only going to Belfast. I was really hoping for, you know, a trip somewhere
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
we could fly to, but we just got on a bus and went to Belfast. And I was very young at the time, and I remember my parents dropping me off to a bus, like, or to a hotel where the bus was picking me up. And I remember getting onto the bus, not knowing anybody, you know, being really young, and seeing all these girls and lads, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're all so fast, they're
Yeah.
all so good. You know, it was quite daunting in a way, but once we got there, it was brilliant. It was an experience of a lifetime, you know. And I ran the 1500 up in Belfast and ran a huge PB, probably something like 12 seconds, I think, and I
Jesus.
was
Yeah.
just thrilled. It's definitely something I'll remember, and my coach and different people from my club drove up to watch me. So it was one of the perks of having it in Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't have probably came if it was in Scotland or
No,
something.
probably not.
No, definitely not. So that was the first one. You know, I made a few other teams after that. You know, I was for the Taltons, for the schools, and they were all brilliant experiences. But I think there's definitely something about that first time.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose I got my first Irish senior vest just 2 years ago at the Armagh road race.
Yeah.
Um, and that's an amazing event. I'd tell anybody that I meet that they should definitely do it. It's just, the atmosphere is nothing like I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
You're running around, I don't know if you know, but it's just basically a kilometre loop really around
Yeah.
the centre of the town. And there's just people everywhere. There's just support everywhere. I didn't sleep that night when I got home. I was so excited. But I suppose equally, you know, when I was young up in Belfast, you know, I think they're both quite similar. There's a huge length of time in between both events, but they're both really, really memorable and really important to me.
No, definitely. And, you know, obviously representing your team, or your country anywhere at any level, is always really, really, it is a really, really great experience. But especially at a young age, and I'd say even at the age you are now, getting the gear is always
Yeah.
probably one of, if not the biggest perk that you look forward to.
Oh yeah, I think, you know, I don't think it matters what age you are. If you get asked to wear that green singlet, it's going to be hugely important, and just a huge memory that you'll always have. And I think there's just a sense of pride in it,
Yeah.
and it's such a great, you know, I have the tracksuit that I was given when I was 15 or whatever age I was, you know,
Yeah,
it's tucked away, but I still have it.
definitely.
It's incredible. Yeah, it really is.
That might have to be put up in a frame in a few years.
Yeah, that's it. You might get your own one soon. You never know.
We never know. Fingers crossed. But no, now that you're back from America, and you're saying you're running up in a team in Dublin, what's kind of training looking like now? You know, where obviously with everything going on, there's not much to be planning for or anything really to be looking forward to race wise. But how is training and preparation for the future going at the moment?
Well, I had a little setback just a while ago with an injury.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, that's part and parcel. It was quite similar to the first lockdown actually, because I picked up a little injury then as well. And if anything, it just slows things down, and it worked very well for me back in March and April. I got injured, I was off my feet, same as now. I do quite a lot on the bike when I'm injured,
Yeah.
to just try and keep fitness up. I'm back. I've been back jogging now probably about 10 days. So that's going really well. You know, people find it hard to be motivated when there's no races, but I think it's a really good opportunity for us all to just enjoy it.
Yeah.
We all love running, and sometimes when there's an awful lot of races, when there's a huge schedule, it puts us under pressure, and we're really very much so concerned with the outcome. We're very much concerned with times that we're doing in training, making sure we're hitting correct splits, making sure we're improving. And, you know, right now, it's just a bit of a luxury to be able to go out and go for a run and just enjoy it and not put pressure on yourself. And that was my approach during the first lockdown. And I actually didn't do any time trials at all. My coach was, when I was starting to get fit, probably around May or June, probably. I can't remember exactly. He was saying, do you want to, you know, let's do a time trial. Let's, you know, you can do any distance. And I just said, I don't really want to. And, you know, I think it was just important for me I knew I was running well. I knew my training sessions, you know, they were getting better as weeks went on. I was feeling really strong in long runs. And I was just enjoying myself so much that it didn't feel tough. And, you know, I think it's nice to be able to get outside every day. It's nice to have an excuse to get outside. So I didn't really look at it much as training. It was kind of a break from work. So I may have handled the pandemic better than a lot of people, but I do think it's about the mindset that you have, you know.
100%. No, that was a great way to look at it. Personally, as I mentioned, like I didn't have much of a team to train or any team to train with at all over quarantine. At the start, it took a bit of adjusting. During the middle, I was like, all right. But then coming to the end, you know, I felt like I was getting very repetitive, and you definitely dealt with the training on your own. I feel like a lot better than I did, just because the entire time I've been doing running, I've always been with a team.
Yeah.
So that made it that little bit harder. But no, that was a great way to look at it, just to enjoy it and not have that, you know, even the day of the race you're nervous, but the week leading up to the race, it's always on your mind. And just being able to train and go out on runs and enjoy it and not have to worry about that nervous feeling or how you perform in a race is always important.
I bet you're looking forward to getting back with your group this week, so are you?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. No, we've been it was the first lockdown for a while when everything was completely shut. I wasn't able to train, but then there was the 5 kilometer radius, and I'm outside because I live in Blanchardstown in Dublin, and then it's over in Santry, Clonliffe Harriers, so that's outside of 5 kilometers. So there was a good few of the lads were training on the team, but I wasn't. Then when the first lockdown finished, and I was able to get back training with the team, and I don't know, was that June, July when that lockdown ended. And then just there a few weeks ago, obviously when we were gonna go in, when we went into level 5, but then Athletics Ireland brought out that students under the age of 18 are allowed to travel outside the 5 kilometer radius to attend training. So my coach actually printed out and made training plans for all of us for the 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But then we didn't even have to use them because then the Tuesday after we were back out training. So, but they're always good to have there just in case we go back
Yeah.
into another lockdown.
You're one of the lucky ones this time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm not sure how I would have felt if we had gone back into training on our own because yeah, it wasn't even. I feel like Mondays and Wednesdays and I'd be running on my own. They're kind of like, they're compared to the banter and all you have with the team. They're just so much more less enjoyable than that is when not that like obviously you have to do the work and they're not enjoyable, but compared to the highs you have with the team, they're just not as good.
Yeah, that's when you listen to a good podcast.
That's it, exactly. You put the earphones in and you listen to this podcast out on your runs.
That's it.
No, but obviously you said you're just coming back from major injury. Would you be able to tell us what that is at the moment?
Yeah, this is something that I've never had before. It's my plantar fascia. There had a slight tear in it. So it kind of came on very, very suddenly. I was in full swing of things, in the middle of a big block, and I had a session on Saturday and it went very, very well. And I came home and just thought my foot was a little bit stiff, but didn't really think much of it. Just thought it was a bit tired and went out on the Sunday for my long run, and I was in a woods, which ended up being a little bit of an issue. So it was stiff starting off, and it started to get a bit worse, and it just came to the point where I couldn't run on it anymore. But I had to actually run back to my car, so that was really inconvenient. Woods are brilliant and everything except when you've got a 20-minute jog back, and by the time I made it back I could barely walk, so that just took me out and sidelined me for probably 4 or 5 weeks. I'm on the comeback trail now as we speak. Just I've got a walk recovery in between my running bits, so my walking is improving.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. So look, all the gains that we can make.
Exactly.
But yeah, look, I'm improving, and there's been no pain for the last little while. And look, I'm not really in a big panic or a big rush because I probably have quite a lot of time to get to where I want to be. So I'm just trying to take it slow and not be crazy when I'm running, trying to go fast.
Yeah, no, definitely. And now, obviously, returning from an injury is always tough. But I feel like, obviously, it's kind of bad to say with everything that's going on. But maybe it happened at the right time when everything's kind of being cancelled. So maybe that's a blessing in itself. But I know with your injury at the moment and with race schedules being unpredictable, it's kind of hard to see where you'll be running wise and racing wise in the next few months and maybe next year and a bit. But as of right now, taking the injury and Corona maybe slightly into consideration, what are the goals for the future?
That's a tough question.
Definitely at the times that's in, it's a very tough question.
Exactly. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not really concerned about the injury. I think the worst of it's behind me. And I was injured in March and April, and I ran PBs over the summer, so I definitely think it's something that you can overcome. I suppose 2021, I'd be looking to improve on what I did this past summer. So I mentioned, earlier that I started focusing a lot on 5Ks when I was in America and when I came home. And this summer just gone, I decided to drop down and try and recreate some of my juvenile memories. So I went back to 800 and 1500 for the first time in quite a while and ended up running PBs. So that's really just taken my interest. I didn't really train for those events. I had really been training for 5K stuff.
Yeah.
So I think to really go at the 8 and 15 again in 2021 will be a big plan of mine, and to actually really structure training around those events, because there are certain things that you would do that you wouldn't do for a 5K.
Yeah.
So I think my focus has definitely shifted back to those. You know, as long as you're running PBs, that's the main thing. It shows that you're improving. You know, there's no point in really comparing yourself to everybody else and to what everybody else is running, because if you keep improving consistently, you'll, you know, well, hopefully you'll close the gap maybe. So
Definitely.
that's what I'm looking towards. If National Cross goes ahead, and if it's probably the end of February, I would definitely be hoping to be on the start line for sure. And if that was in the near future, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be there. So it just depends. It just depends on race schedules. You know, previous years I've went to England for races, and it's really fun. It's really competitive. You know, so I would like to do that again. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'd be hoping by next summer that we'd have the option to maybe
Fingers crossed anyway.
fly places.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that's, I suppose, that's what I'm looking towards next year. So fingers crossed it can happen.
So hopefully we'll see on the line for the 800, the 1500, and the senior women's All Irelands on the track next year if they go
That's
ahead.
it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. And since you come back from America real quick, obviously a few years ago now, but before everything happened with the whole pandemic, was there any more big moments or big race wins cross country track since you've come back, or has it all been pretty moderate?
Um, I suppose I came back and I was still eligible for novice and intermediate cross country. I usually younger people do that, but because I was away for so long, I was able to do everything.
Yeah.
So it's 2 years ago now, so not that long ago.
No.
I I won both. I won national novice and won national intermediate the same season.
Yeah.
And I don't, as far as I know, I don't think many people have done that double.
So you're
In
going
this,
down in history.
well, I don't know. I think Emmett Dunleavy. Do you know Emmett Dunleavy?
I've heard of him. I seen him
Yeah,
around. Yeah.
I think he has done it. But I'm not actually, sure of females that have done it. I don't think many people have done it. So
Yeah.
after that, I said to my coach, I mean, I just need to win national senior cross now, really, to have the
Yeah.
trifecta. But no, that was pretty memorable. Novice probably more memorable, and a lot of people would have seen the picture of me falling across the line. That that was a bit of a hit. More so than actually winning the race. I think the fall made me known.
Yeah.
But no, those two, obviously, like I've said, I wouldn't really consider myself a proper or a really good cross country runner. So to win those races, was brilliant, and
Yeah.
they'd definitely be a highlight for me and my career, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And this might be a bit of a stupid question, but do you think America played a big factor in you being able to do that double?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I think I came home and had a new coach, had a new training group, and the training that I was doing and that I am doing now made me really, really strong, and made me more capable than I had been in previous years.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say I won because of that. And also it was in Navan on a really wet, windy, cold day.
Yeah.
I think it had like orange weather warnings.
Jeez, yeah.
You would never have that in America. So I think the training here and what I was doing beforehand probably helped me more than America would have.
No, I suppose, and definitely coming back and trying to adapt to the terrain again, the muddy, the hills, the weather especially, and no, I suppose, yeah, as you said, coming back in that training that you done here before the races, it definitely prepared you, because even though people might say the standard in America might be might be a little bit better and higher quality than over here, but I feel like if you put one of the best American cross-country runners in Irish conditions, they'd have a hard time.
I think so too. Yeah, we're
Definitely.
pretty tough over here, you know.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
No, but this has actually probably been one of the fastest 50 minutes I've ever had in my life. It was a really good and interesting conversation. I appreciate you taking the time out and coming on the podcast. And as we said, the first female guest on the podcast, and I'd say a lot more to come in the future. But now again, I appreciate you taking the time out.
No problem. Thanks very much, Killian. I look forward to listening to your future guests and hopefully future females.
Definitely, definitely, and hope everyone watching or listening at home enjoyed. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.